Welcome. Today we're going to do a midday yin practice to activate. All right, clearly it's not midday yet, I'm not awake yet. To activate the heart chakra, the heart center. So we're going to do a supported back bend. I'm sitting on a bolster. I'm going to use this as my prop. You can mimic this with 2 bed pillows end to end so that you're sitting on the end of your bed pillow, and then you're going to lie back and you're going to let your shoulder blades come back onto the floor. So if you happen to have a yoga bolster that's not too thick for you to do that pose, you can use that. If you're back in the office, you can go down to the gym. Those thick mats work well to roll up, and then you're going to use it so it'll be the same kind of shape. Once you've rolled up a thick mat, you're going to sit at one end, you're going to let your spine run along the mat, and then your shoulder blades are coming down onto the floor. You can also just pile a couple of those thicker mats up. That way you have a little more control over how thick that prop is. So if your back is tight, you may not want so much height to your prop. Bed pillows are squishy, so they tend to not be too intense. You can also use a folded up blanket. So, big breath, let your chin drop down towards your chest. Take another breath there. All right, grab your prop. We're gonna move into this first pose. This one's often called a supported bridge pose. It's a little bit different than a real bridge, than just like a regular bridge pose. All right, so you want to have your shoulder blades. So my shoulder blades are coming right off the edge of the bolster. So I want my shoulder blades to come down flat. So typically, if this is a fairly thick prop like mine is, you don't usually need or want anything underneath your neck. But if your prop is not super thick, you might want like a little padding, which is where, okay, so I have a blanket. Sometimes you can just kind of roll up a little bit. A piece of fabric that's not really thick enough for this, but you get the idea. You can just kind of roll that up and support your neck. You can put a towel, like a small towel or something under it. All right, so arms. This is pretty intense for me today. I'm going to use my breath here and really work on getting, so I can feel this all through my abdomen. I can feel it into my back. I can feel it into my hips a little bit, as well as, that point on the upper back. So I'm going to use some breath. I'm just trying to get the body to relax into being in this shape. If you find your prop is too thick, try to make it a little bit thinner. And then your arms, maybe you want them at shoulder height. Feet can be on the floor here, or legs can be straight. So again, because this is a little thicker, I'm feeling like I want a few minutes with my feet on the floor. And then I might try straightening out my legs. So now for me, this starts to get a little more intense, right through this lower part of the abdomen, right into my hips. So I don't think I'm quite ready for that this morning. For me, it's morning. So see if you can start to feel, where is that spot? Right below your shoulder blades, along the spine, where we're creating this little back bend, where we're trying to push into that heart chakra. And just imagine that, or try to feel that sensation, right? Like you're just stimulating, almost like you're massaging that heart chakra. Imagine that energy center beginning to be freed up. So a lot of times our upper backs right there doing this rounding forward. And so we get sort of stuck in that shape. Well, so now we're shifting that spot along the spine. So you can imagine that now we're letting that, we're changing that energy, right? So we're changing that shape. We're starting to get that energy to open up, to release out that stuckness right there, that heart center. And then see if you can imagine or feel that energy moving forward into the chest. Now we've freed up that energy, or releasing it out. It's moving, it's like expanding out forward in that way. We're going to release onto this box. So you might roll to your side. Where I am, I'm just going to lift my hips up. I'm going to lock my feet in a little bit. So like a real bridge pose, I'm going to lift my hips up and I'm just going to push. So if you're on pillows, you might be able to do the same thing. Even if you're on like a rolled up yoga mat, you might be able to push that off. If you're on stacked yoga mats, you might need to roll off. And then we want to be flat on the back. So to create balance in the physical practice, activating that heart center tends to focus a lot on back bends, but I think that we have to create balance by also doing forward folds when we do back bends. So we're going to try to work our way up gently. You can either roll to your side or you can try to push straight up, your choice. We're coming on up. We're going to take it into a butterfly pose. So one of the ways to adjust your butterfly pose is to use props. All right, so butterfly, we've got these feet together, but we've got space in the center. Cobbler's pose is feet pulled in, butterflies, feet pushed forward. You can use, so if you have pillows or a bolster and you want to have something to rest on, you can bring this on top of your feet. You can pile this higher. So if you have more pillows or you have yoga blocks or something, you can pile that up. If you're okay, you prefer it without a prop. For anybody who wants to go a little bit deeper, if you have a yoga block, you can try putting that between your feet. So take your knees out further, it's going to shift your hips a bit. And you can do that, maybe it's not on that wide, maybe it's a little bit thinner. So you can round, you can let your head hang if your head's okay hanging. If you want support for your head, and try to find something just to rest your forehead on. So we're still creating this roundness in the back, but now it's not so intense on my neck because I have a prop underneath my head. Okay, we're going to start now. And then we want to breathe out. So now try to imagine that same spot on your spine where that heart chakra emanates from. Try to imagine again that we're just freeing that stuck energy. I really feel like if you can observe some physical sensation at that point. Maybe 2 more breaths here. All right, so we're gonna gently come up. We're gonna take our feet out wide. We're gonna lengthen the spine and just give a little fold forward here. Just feel like your own way forward. How far do you want to go today? Breath. Back up. Good. Let's try to do a little side bend. So we're gonna take. You can do it this way. You can do right hand. You can do both arms up. Grab hold of your right wrist. Just try to bend sideways if that's okay on your back and on your shoulders. Sometimes I feel like with feet wide, we give our low backs a little more support there. If you want hand down, left hand comes down. Just trying to bend it to the side. So now we're trying to get again that sense that we're bending the spine at that heart chakra spot. Trying to free that energy along the spine. All right, coming back through center. So again, either holding onto your left wrist. This side I can't go as far. You may notice those differences too. If you want, right hand down. So I'm trying to decide. Am I getting a better bend there? But I have hand down. So Then get more of a shoulder opening if I hold on to the wrist, because that's going to pull my arm down a little bit. I feel like I get a little better bend in my spine on this side if I have hands down. All right, coming up. Woo. Wiggle your toes. Good. And then we're going to roll back out onto our backs. So midday practice, we're working on, back, shoulders, hips primarily, as well as this little focus on heart center. So come on back onto your back. We're going to take a breath there. You can pull knees in, rock a little from side to side. And then we're going to grab hold of feet for a happy baby. Your happy baby can be with your feet together, or you're going to separate those feet. And then we're going to let feet come on down. We're going to do a reclining deer pose. So feet are wide. Let's drop our knees to the left. We'll focus on the right leg. So it's like a twist, but with a twist we've got knees together, or dropping legs over, so they're kind of stacking. Deer pose, we've got space between the feet. And then we're gonna let the knees drop over. Some people like to do it, they'll bring their left ankle and kind of rest on top. So then you're pushing that inner right leg down more. That may or may not work for you. It's a hard pose, I think, regardless. And then putting that weight on top of the leg can make it more intense, which again can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you're feeling. So this leg, this right leg, left leg can go anywhere. Right leg, you can move it more to the left to make it less intense. You can move it out to your right to make it more intense. All right, my knee's not loving that at the moment. I'm gonna shake that out. That's better. All right, so left leg can be anywhere you want. If you want to prop underneath your head, a little prop. Sometimes just your hand will do to hold your head up a little bit, give your neck some support. Big full breath. So now this may not be specifically focused on the heart chakra, but again, everything is connected. So when we have stuck energy in any part of the body, it's going to start to hold us down. It's going to create discomfort, dis-ease. So we want to create this balance in the entire body so that we can feel. The heart chakra is really all about this sense of unconditional love for ourselves, for everything and everyone. When we don't feel well, it's hard to really have that sense of love for everything and everyone. So we want to try to make ourselves as well as possible, to feel as good as we can possibly feel, so that then we can radiate love out to everyone around us. to slowly start to release this side. So let this right leg, either just kind of slide it or use your foot and walk that leg over to your left side. We're going to gently just bring this leg over to the left, straighten the leg out, push your heel out from your hip. So you start to feel the sensation of that leg really pushing out from the hip. And then bend your knee. Pull the knee in towards the chest. Come onto your back. Pull both knees in. Gently rock from side to side. We're going to bring feet up into the air. Hang on to the backs of the legs. If you can reach your big toes, hang on to your big toes. And then let your feet drop away from one another. So if you're not reaching the big toes, you're just hanging on to the legs. If it feels right to rock a little bit here, let yourself rock. So now I can feel this nice stretch behind my knees and my inner leg. All right, we're going to take it to the other side. So let's maybe straighten legs out. All right, so we want the legs straighten out along the floor. We're going to look at the toes. And then we'll take it to the other side. I'm going to have a sip of water. But bring your feet up onto the floor. And now we're going to drop knees to the right, so we're focusing on the left leg. Each side can be different. So how you move this left leg may be a little bit different from your right leg. So again, you might want to bring your right ankle. Ooh, that's intense. And rest your right leg on top of your left. I don't think I really need that. Or you can move that foot further to your left or to your right. So right will make it less intense, to the left will make it more intense. I'm going to take a sip of water. Keep breathing. Let your jaw relax. Bringing the mind back into the heart center. Start to feel that sense of love at the heart. So this can be just like a very general imagining the sensation of love. It could be that you're going to think about something or someone specifically. So again, whatever helps you start to generate that sensation of that emotion of feeling unconditional love. So whether you're thinking about a pet, a human, a place, you know, I just love a blue sky. So the sky is very blue today. That makes me happy. So it kind of this sense of happiness that helps you activate that sense of unconditional love. Just trying to feel that at your heart. slowly release this side. We're going to bring this left leg. You can either slide it or walk it over to the right side. Extend that foot out to your right. You're going to push your heel out from your hip. And then we're going to bend the knee. We're going to pull it in to the chest. Roll back onto your back. Both knees come in. Rock a little from side to side. And then you can do a happy baby again. Grab hold of your feet. Maybe those feet are going to stay together. Maybe they're going to pull apart. You can rock a little bit from side to side. Let your feet gently come down. Lengthen your legs out. Take a big breath. Your arms reach out past your head. All right, we're going to bring it into a twist. So as always, you can just do a nice, easy twist. Just knees side by side, let your knees drop to the right. If you're going to do twisted roots, now you're crossing your left knee over your right knee. So you're crossing your legs. And then the knees are going to drop over, the legs are going to drop over to the right side. If you're doing a cat pulling its tail, you're going to roll to your right side. Bring this left leg over. So my leg, some people can do their leg pretty straight, pretty far up. My leg usually bends a little bit here. Bottom leg. So you're going to take that right leg, you're going to use your toes, you're going to try to drag this right leg backward. So the front of that right thigh starts to turn down towards the floor. I have a block underneath my head. I typically like something underneath my head for this pose. If you can hang on to your foot, you're going to grab your foot. Take that shoulder blade, so backward. So a lot of people can bring their shoulder blade down onto the floor. I typically cannot. So I'll usually stay a little bit more resting on the side of my body. If you don't have a prop for your head, but you feel like you want one, you're just gonna bring your hand underneath your head. You wanna let that left shoulder blade drop backward, but it doesn't necessarily have to be all the way onto the floor. It's just going to depend on your body and where your body's going to go. And then we're going to breathe. So here again, we're twisting the spine. We're working on releasing any stuck energy out of that heart center. And imagine that energy just beginning to flow freely from that heart chakra. That, really radiates out from the spine. So imagine that spot. Just imagine energy flowing freely from the spine. So that sense of love just flowing freely out from the spine. Again, love for yourself, love for something or someone in particular. Maybe it's humans as a whole. let go of this side. You can roll in either direction. You can either roll onto your abdomen. So particularly if you're in cattail, I think it feels like it's pretty easy to roll onto the abdomen, or sort of natural. If you're gonna roll onto your back, just like always, come back gently, maybe hug knees in or come into a happy baby. If you're gonna come onto your abdomen, it might feel good to be in a Sphinx pose for a couple of breaths, resting on your lower arms. You can kind of rock your legs around, get a little bit of movement. And then usually I like to come into child's pose. So it's really like, being on your back with your hugging your knees in, but now we flipped it over. So the pose definitely feels different. Arms can be alongside your legs if you're doing child's pose, or they can be out in front of you. We're going to bring it into the other side. So, back on the back. If it's a regular twist, knees are side by side, dropping over to your left. If it's twisted roots, right leg's crossing over left leg. Legs drop to your left. That feels good. If you're coming into cattail, so again, we're going to roll to this left side. We're going to bring the right leg over, and then you're using your left foot, using the toes, trying to take this leg backwards. So again, that front of that left thigh starts to turn down towards the floor, and then you're going to see if you can get hold of the foot. You do not need to hold the foot. You can create this shape and not hang out of the foot, or you can get the foot. Big breath. Trying to soften a bit into your pose. Imagine that heart center activating again. So if it's comfortable, you can try to think about someone in your life that's difficult, that you find difficult. I think a lot of times work relationships, it's easy to think about somebody who you don't have an easy relationship with. You can try to imagine just feeling unconditional love for that person. Realizing that we all have our difficulties and our challenges. Sometimes we don't get along well with people, but they're not necessarily bad people. There are definitely worked with some people who are not nice. So they're a little harder to feel unconditional love for. But they're people who we just, we rub each other the wrong way. So if you can, think about somebody who's just a little difficult for you to get along with. Imagine sending them unconditional love. slowly release from the side. So same thing. You can roll onto your abdomen or you can roll to your back. Whatever feels like, it's the way that you want to go here. Nice and easy if you're coming onto your back. You might want low back down first before you pull your knees in. Maybe you won't even pull your knees in here. Breathing. All right, we're gonna try to squeeze in one more. Pigeon or a reclining pigeon. If you're doing a reclining pigeon, right foot, what are we doing? Left foot on the floor, right ankle on top of your left thigh, and then let your legs drop over to the side. So you're gonna let this whole outer leg come down onto the floor, and then that right foot's gonna come down onto the floor. If you're doing a pigeon pose, you're coming up from hands and knees or from a downward facing dog. Right knee forward and out to the right side, left leg comes on back. So you can mix these up. I'm not sure ever if I can hold pigeon for 4 minutes. Every once in a while I can. Mostly it's too long for me. But you can mix it up. So if you're okay for 4 minutes, you can hang out in pigeon. If this is feeling like it's way too much, flip it back into a reclining pigeon. Or if you want to do a square pose, which is really a little more like what I'm feeling I want to do here. You're going to do a square pose. You're going to sit and you're going to stack your right shin on top of your left. That foot can pull in, so you're a little bit more like a half lotus. That will also help to stretch out the hip flexors. If you get those shins to stack on top of one another and it's not too intense, you might start to lean forward a bit. So for me, this one's I have like a little trouble with my right knee in pigeon pose. So this one, you don't feel that stress in the knee, but it's still pretty deep in the hip flexor. Breathe. So if that was helpful for you to think about sending unconditional love to somebody you're having a hard time with, it doesn't mean that you have to love yourself any less or that you have to compromise your beliefs, or it doesn't mean that you're letting somebody run over you. You can still have your own boundaries with that person, I think is what I'm looking for. You can still take care of yourself and not give yourself away to somebody you find difficult or totally give into them. And still at the same time have a sense of unconditional love for them, just as as another person living in a challenging world. So if that feels helpful for you to practice that, sending unconditional love to someone, you can still have that boundary between you and them and yet offer them unconditional love at the same time. Practice that if that's helpful. If not, that's just feeling like it's disruptive, then really work on feeling that sense of unconditional love for yourself. A lot of times that's really where we need to begin, is just with ourselves, with loving ourselves. Sometimes that's where that friction comes in. So we don't really feel quite strong enough in our own being. So you can imagine that this tightness in our hips that we're working on letting go. Imagine that as all the resistance that we have to loving ourselves or loving other people. You can imagine that as all that friction that we run into. Imagine that releasing out. Alright, I'm going to change that. So just nice and easy. You stretch your legs any way that feels right. From pigeon pose, you can come out onto hands and knees. If you're in a square pose, you can just bounce your knees, maybe lean back a little bit, rock legs from side to side. On your back, maybe bring that right foot up towards the ceiling, stretch the leg, wiggle around. And then we're going to take it right into the other side. So if you're doing a square pose, you're going to try to stack your left shin on top of your right. We're going to breathe out. And then again, come back into this sense of right, that we're releasing out all of our challenges in life, all of our resistance, all of the things that make it difficult for us to feel unconditional love for ourselves and for everyone else. So we're releasing out these blockages of energy. And feeling that lets you grow stronger. By releasing out this stuck energy in the body, you actually become stronger. As you become more fluid, you become more flexible. You're more able to adapt and go with the flow of life rather than resisting and feeling unhappy about things that are happening. out from this side. So again, stretching in any way that you like. And then we're just gonna do Shavasana. So we're gonna relax for a few minutes. So stretch out. And then we're gonna come onto our backs. Settling into any spot where you're comfortable. Just let yourself relax, just settle down. Take a deeper breath. Observe how you are. Move your fingers and your wrists. Wiggle your toes. Maybe move your ankles around. head to one side. And to the other side. Take your head back and center, stretch your arms overhead. Roll to one side. And start to make your way up into a seated position. Maybe let your head tip a little from side to side. Turn it again. And let's do arms up overhead. Nice long spine. Hands together. Bring them on down to the heart. So we're trying to connect in with that heart center every time we bring our hands to the heart. Big full inhale. Release it out. Thank you for being here and sharing in this practice today. Namaste.